Hey everybody, it's Peteaturner, executive producer and host of the Break It Down Show, bringing you Friday's episode. Yes, we made it and it's super awesome the weekend. I'm looking outside, it's sunny, blue, and about 70 degrees. I'm about to go swimming. Today's guest is Anna Vocino. She is an actress, voice actor, podcast host, and an author. Her first book was called Eat Happy, and the follow-up that she just completed is Eat Happy 2. We'll discuss all of this stuff, plus also the point in time, get this, where Anna is like, we've got these Hollywood careers, her husband's also in Hollywood, that are, sort of right there. We might be able to do things, but we could also just kind of turn it off and leave. We can stay here and do this, or I can go run campaign finance for President Obama. And she chose the artistic choice, not the campaign finance choice. And I love it. We have a great conversation and you're going to love talking to Anna. Hey, by the way, if it's your first time here, welcome. Thanks for coming. We have shows about everything. Do you like to talk about weed? Do you like to talk about sports? Do you like to talk about combat? Do you like to talk about history? Do you like to talk about crypto technology? All of those things. Anything. PhDs, musicians, artists, writers, everything. If you have something or someone you want to have on the show, let me know. I'm always looking for guests. So definitely hit me up at Pete@breakitdownshow.com or at Peteaturner on all social media. Thank you so much for listening. Sharing the show is a great way to support us. Also, if you're a charitable person, and of course you are, Save the Brave. That's our home charity here for the show. Go to savethebrave.org, click on the donate tab, put a small amount of money in there. Each month we'll come in through PayPal, take that money out, and put it to work in saving soldiers and service members' lives who have PTSD. It's like me. Get these people out, give them some purpose. That's what you're buying into. If you're into that, that's great. If not, find some charity, do some work, give them your time, your attention, your presence, a little bit of money, and you will be doing a lot more than you are today. Thank you so much for what you do. Here comes Anna Vocino.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Burrata.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is jonleonguerrero.
Hey, and this is Peteaturner.
Hi, I'm Anna Vocino, author of Eat Happy 2, and you're listening to the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with jonleonguerrero and Peteaturner.
You have the best voice. I wasn't even going to start there. It's so great.
Kind. You're very kind.
You are a voice actor.
I am, and I gotta say, when I started, there weren't a lot of voices that sounded like mine, but I was a little girl from Washington, D.C. with a dream. No, I think as I've aged, it's gotten a little more sonorous, I suppose. But when I was younger, it was definitely like, it felt like I was really nasal, and I was like, but I want to do voiceover. And I coached.
Is that because you're from the Eastern Seaboard, right in the middle where that voice is?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. And I think there's a certain element of, the voice is an interesting thing because I've heard from doctors you can store trauma there. I was on Dr. Drew on Loveline.
Wow.
And back when he used to do that many years ago. And he would take a call from a young woman, and he was so intuitive, he could hone in on who was abused. And then he would say, when were you abused?
Yeah.
11? And they would go, yeah, how'd you know? And he said he could guess based on, and it's not every woman who has a high-pitched voice,
for
of course,
sure,
but they're calling in for a specific reason. And I was amazed at, that's incredible. Whatever trauma can lock in your voice at a certain thing. Yeah. It's insane. So when I was younger, I think there's a lot of wanting to be heard. So you put your voice up into your nose.
Yes.
And so wanting to be louder. Anyway, now I'm just I can just chill and sound like a dude.
But I want to say a couple funny things about that, because you think about how professional and specific someone who's a wine taster.
Yes.
They're like, which side of the mountain, which region of the world, what kind of grape, all that. It's bananas.
I saw some, I know.
Yeah, right, exactly, right? And so all of the folks in that world, you think about how, but of course, with abuse, and if it is represented in the voice, you are going to hear it and have an idea of the age. That makes total sense to me, that you can sense that. When it comes to your voice, so I had Todd Lights, who is the announcer at Dodger Stadium. Hey, everybody, the bathrooms are unlocked. Yeah, that guy. And he's the kind of guy, when he shows up, he was an EMT for a minute. And the joke I said to him, when you showed up and he's like, are you all right? As everybody's like, what are you doing here? Go talk somewhere.
Right,
What do you?
right.
Why, quit caring for me and go get a real job, Mr. Magic Voice.
Right.
Did you get that at all? We're like, at some point, like once you got past the nasally high voice thing.
Listen, I kind of had this strategy because when I had my daughter so young and we had so many bills to pay, I was too scared to go and do voiceover. I was a political consultant for 8 years before I would shoot a television series and then go back and do the 2006 election and then shoot two seasons of a show and then come back and do the 2008 election. And like, I was so nervous to do that. And not once did any of my clients go, hey, you know what? You should do voiceover. Yeah. And in fact, when I said, I'm not going to be I was a campaign finance consultant, which is a whole other thing. It's like, why? Oh God, it was awful. Yeah. I mean, the work isn't awful. I hated it so much. But not once did any client be like, wow, you sound gorgeous in your voice. You should go to, like, no, not once. So I don't know. I guess it's probably from smoking in my 20s. Now I sound like I have a nice voice. And then when I'm 80, I'll sound like Kathleen Turner or something. Right.
Oh, God, Kathleen Turner, yes. Yeah, it is weird how you get to the spots where you get to, because when you're young, you're like, I want to get into politics. Hey, this is Peteaturner from the Break It Down Show, checking in real quick to ask you this. John, Scott, and I all support Save the Brave with our time, our location, our effort, and our money. Each month we give a small amount. Do the same with us. Go to savethebrave.org, click on the Donate tab, pick an amount that you want to come out each month, and they will handle all the rest. I stand behind these folks. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the show. It is weird how you get to the spots where you get to, because when you're young, you're like, I want to get into politics. And, kind of like being here in L.A., we're like, I want to be an actor. Well, first off, can you be an actor? There's 80 different kinds of actors you can be, commercials and, internet thing. But then also, like, you're not going to be an actor. What you're going to be is something else, like a political campaign finance advisor, that version of that here. When did you know you're like, because the fear thing, having a kid, having a husband, having a life. Yeah. Talk about it.
Okay. When I first had my daughter, I was 26, and my aunt, who owns this is the only nepotism I've ever experienced, and it was wonderful. However, I will say this. So she called me when my daughter was like 2 weeks old, and she goes, I have a way for you to still be able to go to auditions and make money and pay the bills. And I was like, great, what is it? Tell me, I'll do anything. And she said, you have to learn campaign finance law.
Okay.
And that's as far as my nepotism got me, because I had to learn campaign finance law.
Right.
So I went to work for her firm and it took on a lot of clients very quickly. And in 2007, I got a phone call from a campaign that said, and by the way, the Obama Senate campaign was one of my clients right after he won, though. So it wasn't like we were during the 2004 election. It was right afterwards. And we went to Chicago, and one of our jobs was get all of their documents and just go through and make sure they did everything right. And if they needed to refile anything, our job is to make sure. And I had a ton of clients who, like, crazy stuff would go down, or like we'd find out like this campaign guy with this candidate was having an affair with his fundraiser or this thing, or you'd find out like all kinds of. Right. One candidate took a $400,000 loan out in his wife's name and didn't tell her. And then after he lost his primary, I had to tell her. Yeah. And I just hated it. I had to talk to the press. I was subpoenaed. Yeah. And I always would try to make jokes and emails, and then I would be subpoenaed and those jokes would come back to haunt me. So I got a phone call in 2007, the summer of 2007, from Betsy Myers. And I was referred to her, along with a few other people, to be the CFO of the Obama presidential campaign. Wow. I know. And I was like, what? How can this even be? I'm sure they're going to hire an MBA. This is crazy. Why would they hire me? Right. And it turns out, I guess I was pretty good at campaign finance. Who knew? But who knew? So I went to hike Runyon Canyon, which I guess everybody who has a nervous breakdown in LA, they figured out on Runyon Canyon, the smell of dog shit. Yeah. It knocks some sense into you. And I thought to myself, because my husband and I always joked, we can shut this whole LA thing down in like 2 phone calls. Like the whole thing will be done. We can move back east. Yeah. That's it. And I thought to myself, I could do that. I could shut it down with 2 phone calls and pursue this opportunity. And I'd go to Chicago and I'd interview and I'd talk, and who knows, I probably would not get hired. Honestly, they would hire an MBA. Or I would get hired and they get fired immediately because they'd be like, you're not qualified for this job. Even if you didn't do it, they'd be like, get the girl without the MBA out of here. Exactly. That's the problem. Yeah, she's got to go. Yeah. And so it was just one of those moments that helps you kind of focus. And I said, not only do I not want that opportunity, even though I really do believe in this candidate. Finally, I had a candidate that I believed in, that I worked for.
Yeah, right.
Not only do I not want that opportunity, I still want to work as an actor and a comic, and I'm going to try to make this happen. And about a month later, my friend Lance came over and he said, I have an idea for a show. Can we record it in your studio?
Yeah.
And then he went and pitched Free Radio, which ran for 2 seasons on VH1 and Comedy Central. And so I was like, okay, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I made that choice. And who knows? I really believe there's all sorts of parallel universes you could be living in depending on the choices you made. But
absolutely. We've had a lot of really high-end musicians on this show, and these things come up where you have an opportunity and it's yes, no to something. And sometimes you pick the cushy gig, even if it's in music. You know, like we've got a guy, Derek, who plays stand-up bass. And he is a professional musician who gets to do incredible things. And he plays at Ka in Vegas every night.
Wow.
He's done 6,000 shows.
Wow. And that's like a union job. You get
medical
your
care,
weekly, your
retirement.
Medical. I mean, that's nice.
Right?
That's real nice.
And so he gets to have his dream, but under these conditions. And if you can stand that, not everybody can.
Right.
But he can. And he's like, I've got a family. I'm home. You know, and if I want to make any extra money, if I need it, I can go to UNLV and teach bass there.
Sure.
You know, so it's these choices where, yes, the Obama campaign and finance, and then next thing you know, you're hiring someone like you to go. You're going to be the CEO. You know, and the guy gets elected. You know, you're pretty good. People want you. You know,
it was kind of crazy. It was kind of. I'm on the phone with Betsy Myers, who's like a legend in the Democratic campaign world. So I was like, does she know who she's talking to? Because if she did, she'd probably be like, yeah, never mind. We're going to rescind that offer. And you know what I mean? I'm glad that I did that.
Yeah.
And it felt brave at the time.
Yeah.
But then I feel like careers are just made from a bunch of decisions like that.
Good and bad.
Good and bad. And then you just deal with it. And like when I started podcasting with Vinnie, it came off of, I was on a 3-year, I felt depressed for like 3 years. Mm-hmm. And then Vinnie came along and was like, let's do a podcast. I was like, oh, I don't want to do that.
Right, especially then.
Okay, I produced a podcast in 2008, 2009 for my husband and David Hornsby, who's the executive producer, one of the executive producers of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And it was a 5-minute long episode podcast. Mm-hmm. And it was so labor intensive to produce this thing, as well as we had to update XML code.
Oh my God.
So, and I had my friend who's an engineer in Canada, like walk me through a tutorial. I was like, okay. He's like, just make sure you copy and paste it or else it won't show up on iTunes. I was like, okay. Like, I'm not a programmer, I'm not a coder. Yeah. But again, I guess the theme is, I learned to do what it takes to make things happen, despite it not really being in my wheelhouse or skill set.
Yeah, parallel universes are weird things when you think about those.
Yeah.
One of the things, and you know, again, like maybe you would have got a job, maybe you wouldn't, but there was talk about having Mike Ditka run for that Senate seat.
That's right.
And he polled above Obama.
That's right.
Even after he's like, I don't want to do it, they're like, but you would win. And he didn't.
I'm sure he would. He's Ditka.
Right.
But he didn't do it. So in a parallel universe,
yes,
Mike Ditka was senator of Illinois.
And then president of the United States.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever,
President
right?
Ditka.
Yeah, and then where is Barack Obama? Like, he's like, it's just not meant to be. I'm going to go and do whatever incredible thing he was going to go do. It is really weird how some of these things happen.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't want to talk about politics specifically.
I don't either.
But were you
I'm really not interested at all.
Were you agnostic as far as like, if a client came, I want you to run camp, or did you stick to the Democratic side?
I was just a Democratic consultant. I will say, having worked in politics, I'm very agnostic now.
I bet.
And to be honest with you, the majority of my audience are conservatives.
Yeah.
And I always find it fascinating how what I do with the food and the recipes humanizes everybody. Because we're all just people trying to get healthy. People are trying to lose weight. And then I go and look at the profile and it's like, fuck this. We hate trans people. And then the other one's like, fuck Trump. We hate Trump people. You know what I mean? It's like, and I see, like, it's interesting how polarized it is. I'm like, but we have so much more in common than we're willing to let on.
And you've written a cookbook, and I promise we're going to get to it, but I want to spend a little bit more time.
I don't care.
I want to spend a little bit more time in this because it's not often I talk to someone who's a professional level campaign finance person. And I'm going to pick the examples that come off the top of my head because they're the ones I can think of. But let's be honest, campaign finance fuck-ups are agnostic to a party as well. But someone like Katie Hill, someone like Ilhan Omar, I don't think that they have nefarious intent. Like, we're going to, do they just not know? I mean, they're a freshman representative. What do you attribute it to without being unfair to
well,
them?
the Katie Hill thing about as far as is it possible that people who are very ambitious have extra sex drive? Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, the sex
You know
drive
what I
thing.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
But like as far as them making just campaign finance mistakes, yes, there are a lot of intricacies and rules. When I first started, there was a member of Congress that we were working with who accepted a car from a foreign national.
Right.
You cannot do that. It seems black and white. However, there's something to be said that most of our clients were grassroots campaigns, minority campaigns, and yeah, if they happen to win in a district, and it's not like people descend from Washington, like, here's how you should do it so you don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
Sometimes the people don't tell them, you know.
Yeah, you don't even know that you could get in trouble.
You didn't even know what you didn't know.
Right.
And then it comes to bite you in the ass. But I'm also like, but also don't accept cars from anyone. Like, just don't accept a car as a gift.
But there's the problem
unless it's
is
from
like
your husband or your
yeah,
wife.
like
it's like
Anna gets you elected. She's your CFO, so of course you give her the next job. Like, you can't always do that. You can't always like.
there were intricacies that I didn't understand. I only worked with candidate committees. There were other people in our firm who just did PACs and super PACs and mayoral and local and gubernatorial. It's different everywhere, and it's more complicated now. I'm glad I'm out of it. It would drive me crazy.
And then hopefully this is my last question about anything in the politic world, but it is fascinating. Will there come a time? Okay, so look, the last election, most of us didn't want either candidate. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say.
So when is it possible that we can have this problem where I'm like, who are we? It's so good. Both of them are so capable. Either one could do the job. I am torn on a good choice.
I laugh with my 46-year-old cynicism now.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I hope that we get to that parallel universe where we're both, it's an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're not there yet.
Well, we seem to make it.
a long way to go.
Well, we've proven one thing as a nation. We're all a bunch of assholes to each other. Because I try to be, I am a shitty conservative and I'm a shitty liberal.
Yeah,
you know?
I would say the same of myself.
Yeah. So I try to just I don't lean left or right. I just try to stand up straight, and that makes people crazy. Pick a side. And I'm like, I have picked a side.
Yeah.
Us. I like us. Yeah. All of us. You know?
Agree.
So anyhow, enough about all that stuff. Let's talk about Eat Happy too.
Oh. The gluten-free, grain-free, low-carb recipes for a joyful life second book.
Let me slap my cookies over it.
I know I did. I fed, full disclosure, everyone, I fed Pete cookies.
And you know me. I want to say yes.
And full of gluten, dairy, and sugar. Not like the BS low-sugar, grain-free cookies that I usually make for myself. No, these are, somebody sent us a Christmas present of Mrs. Fields. I'm not going to eat them because I have celiac, so why not feed them to everybody who comes over?
Feed them to the fat guy. By the way, little known fact, my belt broke today.
What?
Baroque. Yeah.
What happened?
Well, one, I'm old, so my belt is old.
Why don't you get a new belt?
I didn't know I needed one till today.
Till it broke.
And then, I'm heavier than I need to be, But yeah, the horseshoe part of it broke off, unwelded itself, and I'm like, well, now I'm a fat ass because I just fucking fatted a belt.
When stuff like that happens, it is terrible on the ego.
That's why I instantly put it up on Twitter so I could be like, this is ridiculous. I'm dumb. Get out of, I
did a 75-day challenge this summer where I said I'm not even going to have one cheat bite of carbs, dairy, or alcohol for 75 days.
Right.
Because people were doing the 75 hard, and I was like, well, I'm not going to work out twice a day. Let's not get carried away. I'll do my own version of it. And I said to myself, I always wake up complaining about one of three things. I shouldn't have had that cheese because I know I'm allergic to it. I shouldn't have had that wine because alcohol will make you feel foggy the next day. Or I shouldn't have cheated and had those carbs.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, what if we got rid of all three? What would happen? And before I started this 75-day challenge, I actually legit had the thought of, I feel like my underwear don't fit anymore. And it was like the worst feeling to feel like I've gotten too fat for my own underwear. And underwear is something you stretch out.
Yeah.
So it's like you're too fat for your stretched out where it's time to wake the fuck up.
Yeah.
And take a look at stuff. So I'm just saying, I know the feeling.
We have a bunch of health and wellness and fitness kind of people.
Yeah, I bet.
And look, they're all awesome. And this is in no way a criticism of them. They all say sort of the same things, but they all say totally different things. And so it's like, golly, like what?
That's another thing where people are hating on each other is like paleo or keto versus vegan. And then like I heard the Joe Rogan podcast. I heard the first hour of a 4-hour podcast that Joe Rogan had with Chris Kresser and then the guy who produced Game Changers.
Yeah.
James I want to say James Wilkes Booth, but that's the guy who shot Lincoln.
No, that's his brother.
Oh, that's his brother.
Yeah, John.
John Wilkes Booth.
John was the shooter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was listening, and it was insanity.
Yeah.
It was insanity.
Yeah.
Like, we're crazy right now.
Yes.
So
And-
I hope I'm bringing just some reality, like some just like chill out, just eat real food. If you don't want to eat meat, fine.
Yeah.
If you want to eat meat, fine, but stop going at it.
Yeah.
We can all agree that processed foods are not helpful.
Right. And even if you eat them in moderation, know what moderation is.
What is moderation?
Well, that's the thing,
I'm not
right?
good at it.
No, well, so I had I have a PTSD group that I go to, and we've got a bunch of old veterans, and there's some older Korean guy, and he's like, everything in moderation. So I'm like, well, what's I thought about Vinnie, actually. I'm like,
Yeah.
So what's moderation? How much rice is a serving? And he's like, oh. And he does like a motion like a giant bowl, and I'm like, dude, that is not moderation.
Yeah.
That's a bowl full of
That
rice.
would make my blood sugar go nuts and store
yeah.
it all as fat.
Yeah. And
But
it's,
maybe not another guy, you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's
well,
like...
he was old enough and everything else. It was obvious that he had a lot of rice in his life, And so, we're all trying to figure it out. Pete Koch is a friend and a co-host. He brings people on all the time. He's never not been in shape.
Yeah.
And he's inspirational in like going out, go work out for an hour a day. You'll feel better. You'll look better. Everything's better. But when I ask the question for like that, look, if you're a mom or a dad, you're like, all right, I work my 8-hour day job. I commuted 90 minutes, maybe at only 90 minutes total, but probably 2 hours that day.
Yeah. If you live in LA, that's a strong possibility.
When I go, let's say, it's 3:15 right now. When I take off to go from here down to Orange County, I'll be there at 7.
Honey, it's going to be bad.
It's so bad. But then who's got time to work out? Like I can squeeze my butt muscles in the car and everything, but
right.
And
I
by
agree.
the way, my
yes.
kids got to go to ballet. And I have to write my passion project novel that I'm working. Like at some point,
something falls by the wayside.
Yeah, and it's hard to be routine enough.
I don't want to hold the belief that you can't have it all, because then what are you going to try for?
Yeah.
But I also, it's like you have to hold this simultaneous, like you have to like be ambitious and get as much done as you can that's inspiring to you and that you have to get done. And make no bones about it, when you have a family with small children, you can do nothing else.
Yeah.
Like that is it.
Yeah.
That's all you do. And I think there was a certain amount of, for me, really being hard on myself in my 20s and 30s for not excelling at my career to the rate I wanted to. Really being hard on myself for saying, why didn't you pursue acting harder instead of doing the political stuff?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you needed to be there for your daughter, and part of that is providing, and part of that is, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm now in a really interesting position because all of my friends have little kids, and mine is at college in New York City.
Yeah.
And that's why Loren and I do the dual act on marriage, because we're like, we can do this now. We couldn't do stuff for ourselves. You have to forgive yourself, is all I'm saying. You have to you can only do what you can get done. Get as much as you can done, and then don't be so hard on yourself, because you can't get it all done.
Well, we're all way too hard on ourselves, that's for
Yeah.
sure. And when you look back, you're like, God damn, I've done a lot of things. Like when someone reads my bio to me that I wrote,
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit.
a lot of things.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then, but day to day, you're like, God, I'm a fucking lazy, fat dick that doesn't get anything done. Like I was all mad last night because I was just trying to get I'm working on this big project. And I was just trying to redo some voiceover, because it just wasn't perfect, and I want it to be perfect.
Yep.
It's like 10 seconds, but I need to be quiet. I need to be, all of the things you have to do to record those 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And I could not get to those fucking 10 seconds. God damn it. It was frustrating the shit out of me.
What do you mean? You had a time constraint? Like you had to get it within 10 seconds?
No. It's my own deadline. It's my own project. So, and I did it this morning at 6 a.m. I haven't even listened to it yet, but last night
That's
I
hard to record
fixated
that
on
early.
it. Yeah, but I was fine. That was my window. So
Okay.
But I went to bed frustrated and everything else, all over this stupid thing that really I built all of that. Like, I had to do the dishes. Yeah, we had to go walk the dogs. Yeah. And so that work that I wanted to do just sat there like a tack in my ass, just bugging me. And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
And so instead of just saying, well, let's do it tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. first thing, I instead, it doesn't happen often,
right.
but that's professional life. That's what a lot of us deal with,
Absolutely. He's flipping.
I'm flipping through the book.
He's flipping
Gorgeous
through the
pictures,
cookbook.
by the way.
Thank you.
Gorgeous pictures.
I take them all myself.
Do you make all these things?
I do.
Ginger garlic sesame pot roast.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, what's the worst recipe?
There isn't one.
There
I don't
isn't
put
one.
duds in my cookbooks.
Oh, right.
I don't put just filler or fluff in there. I hate cookbooks that do that.
Yeah.
I love cookbooks, and you can sniff it a mile away when they haven't tested the recipe.
Yeah.
When they put a dud in there, you're like, this isn't a dud.
Tell me more. What does that mean? I don't know. How do you know?
Here's what I found out because this is the second book.
Yeah.
The first one I started 7 years ago. This one I started 3 years ago.
Proving what we all know about you. Crazy.
I am crazy. And here's the thing. Early on, I always loved to cook, and I would get I'd rip the recipe out of the magazine, and then I'd go home and make it, and it wouldn't work, and I'd be like, oh, I'm not good at this. And then I come to find out, as I got better in the kitchen, I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. Why did they write it that way?
Yeah.
Now I know.
Huh.
From having insiders in the recipe and the cookbook business tell me, oh yeah, they'll write recipes and then make it once and take a picture, and even if it doesn't work, they'll still publish it.
Right.
Instead of redoing, which is why I love like America's Test Kitchen, and they're on PBS. They have a show because their recipes are reliable and they actually will remake it. And so it's like making a cookie and then saying, you know what, instead of a half a teaspoon of that, let's do a quarter teaspoon of that. But then they don't actually remake it, and so you make the recipe and it doesn't work because their idea of making it work was never executed.
I like that you have a recipe for Jeannie's seafood stew, and it looks like cioppino, but you didn't call it cioppino because cioppino is what's in the fridge kind of soup, and that's how I think of it.
Yeah, it is.
Like a cioppino.
Most soup, here's a secret, most soups are what's in the fridge soups. That's how they were invented. Because like, what's about to go rotten that we need to cook right now?
Right. What about Grandpa catch at the end of the pier?
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And then let's figure out what to make around it, which is how I write a lot of my recipes.
Right.
And some of my some of my recipes are that's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, well, what if I made a taco, but it was like with Asian flavorings and like, and then that becomes the one that everyone's like, oh my God, the Asian beef tacos, holy shit. And, and I'm like, well.
I had that yesterday. I was at the Pacific Club in Orange County, and they served like a pot roast on top of mashed potatoes with like a vegetable medley around that. And in that gravy were like just perfectly cooked celery pieces that had a very Asian, like a kung pao kind of chicken kind of texture and taste. And I'm like, that is the best part. Because the pot roast is pot roast. It's wonderful. It's salty. It's delicious. But that celery was...
like just a little something in there. Extra.
It was the something.
And then you would like the ginger garlic sesame pot roast.
Oh, yes. I'm sure I would. And the grilled peach and burrata salad. I love burrata.
Yeah, it's quite good.
Yeah. So, okay, for
When in
reals.
doubt, grill something.
When in doubt. Do you mayonnaise your food before you grill it?
Not always, but I have. It depends on the thing.
Yeah, we often forget that step. But when we do, we're always like, how do we always forget this? Because it does make that little something.
Extra something.
Why on earth would you write a second cookbook?
Because I'm a glutton for punishment.
No, but really,
remember,
like,
I emailed you and I was like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I wrote another book.
I was thinking, because I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say I wrote a cookbook, and I'm like, because I think you had said the first time we talked that you're like, I'm never doing it again.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I bet she wrote a cookbook. And then you did. Yeah. So again, when you stood on the edge of that decision and you said, fuck it, I'm going to do it, or what was that like?
First of all, I feel like my recipes have gotten even better. I feel like I have filled in the gaps that were missing in the first cookbook, only because it just wasn't possible. I wasn't going to do a 300 recipe cookbook for the first book. In fact, I think I overshot it with the first one. I should have done 100 recipes, not 155.
Okay.
And so this one I had to do even more, because this one has 165 in it. It was bananas. Like,
it is bananas.
The whole, I don't know. Folks are benefiting from it. They like it, and that makes me happy. But I do feel like there were more things that I wanted to put in the book. That being said, there are little things that come up that frustrate me and drive me crazy. Like, I make it a point to put a wide variety of foods in the cookbook. I'm not going to just put, like, it's not going to be all ground beef and then, like, all salmon. Like, I want a wide variety of cuts of meat. And in my desserts chapter, I use a little bit of sugar because I am of the philosophy that if you make a sweet treat, it should be a sweet treat. And I don't like to, personally, I don't like the fake sugars or the artificial sugars.
Right.
And some folks don't like this, and there's kickback, and that's fine. But what I don't understand is there's still 155 other recipes here that you can make. These aren't going to jump off the page and make themselves and then force themselves into your body.
And ultimately, these are suggestions after all. So you can be
course.
like, coconut sugar instead, whatever.
Yeah,
and by the way, I
whatever.
love
Yeah,
a Bellini. And I also love a Brandy Alexander.
This Bellini made with vodka instead of Prosecco, because Prosecco is very high in sugar, is so good. And it will knock you on your ass.
Yes. The Pinky Tuscadero, great reference.
Yep. That was Fonzie's girlfriend, right?
Yeah, and then their sister was Leather Tuscadero.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
And check this out. Leather Tuscadero was played by Susie Quattro. Who's Susie Quattro? Probably the most, or if not the top 3 most successful rockin' chicks ever.
Really?
Yeah, so if you were to line up, in careers, you would have a real problem differentiating between Joan Jett.
I was just thinking Joan Jett.
Debbie Harry. And Susie Quattro.
Quattro.
And if you looked at album sales, Susie Quattro has, I think, 60 million albums sold. Yeah, right? Your mouth is open.
What band was she in?
Her own band.
Oh.
But she made
How do
most
I
of her,
don't know?
She made most of her time and money over in Europe because that's where they started buying the albums. But when you lined up rock and roll, I think Debbie Harry and Joan Jett are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And so, what about Susie Quattro? Because she sold more records than both of them. Yeah. So it's weird. And that's no knock on Joan or Debbie, of course, but it's funny.
Well, I'm going to write them and tell them you said
yes,
that. Yes,
please do. Please do. Pete is a dick.
Pete! That was not nice.
That was nice.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah. I wrote another cookbook.
Yeah. Yeah. You were talking about why did you do this? I don't know, because I'm a psychotic human who can't stop writing recipes, so I figure why not assemble them into a book and see if people will buy
160 plus.
Yeah.
Is it 170? Why not just like 164?
Well, because here's the thing.
Yeah.
There are some. I put a lot of dressing recipes in here because that was one of the most common things. I need ranch, I need Caesar, I need this, and so I put a whole bunch. So it could be, you could count those as a recipe or you could not. So I just said 160 plus. So
that's fair to fudge.
Takes me to task because people love taking people to task. That's what the internet is for.
Yeah. That's a place for people who don't have enough business and want your business to be their business. Get out of my business. Get your own.
It's crazy.
It is bananas.
I have to steel my resolve before I go. I've actually hidden all of my social media onto a folder that's kind of hidden in my phone, so I'll forget to look at it. Because I do like to respond to people's comments. I like to answer questions. I like to be hands-on. I'm of the Gary Vaynerchuk school of thought with that. Like, I like to be present.
Yeah, me too.
But then those ones that make me crazy happen, and I'm like, oh, I'm not as tough as I thought I was.
When I make my editorial decisions, let's understand that I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but that's because I'm an adult. There is a purpose behind them, you know? So if I have someone who's right-leaning and like more of a political thing, I will absolutely try to get someone from the left.
Yeah.
And I will bounce. And I had a whole week where I went left, right, left, right, left, right. And the audience may not make that path with me, but I offer it, And so we put up a show today where the lady, first off, she's a patent attorney, so she's brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have to be on that stuff.
And so she's like, hey, the news bugs me. I need to know what the root is. Where are they at? Are they credible, less credible? Are they left? Are they right? Whatever. And so she started figuring it out using her big, powerful lawyer brain, And then she's like, okay, I know how to do this now. And people love it. And they took on. So the whole show about all this fascinating work that she does that allows you to look. Yeah, it's great, right? One of the people on my Facebook feed's like, I disagree. I'm like, well, first off, motherfucker, you didn't listen to the show. Second of all, if I was to guess, I would guess that she agrees with you, dumb shit. But because you didn't do the work, I'm being really unfair right now.
How are you being unfair when somebody trods on your Facebook page with some bullshit?
Yeah.
This is what people don't think before they write things.
And I can
would
literally
never write all this stuff to people.
And I can literally say,
let it go.
Yeah, you didn't read. You didn't listen.
Scroll.
Yeah, just let it go. But he always wants to
on.
come in with his critique and analysis.
Some lady called me to task recently. She wrote me at my site. I guess last year I posted a peppermint mocha latte, which is on my website, and it doesn't have any sugar, so that instead of getting the peppermint mocha latte from Starbucks that has 38 teaspoons of grams or whatever it is, it's huge. It's a tremendous amount of sugar. You can make this at home and feel like you're getting a little sweet treat, but without adding extra sugar. And so this lady, she wrote, oh, I would like a chai. Can you do a chai latte recipe? I was like, oh yeah, I'll work on that. I didn't work on that. But also too, you just brew chai and then put some cream in it. It's not hard to figure that one out. So I reposted the peppermint mocha latte this year. Mm-hmm. And I got this curt message from this same lady. You said you were going to work on and first of all, it was riddled with typos, which makes me go like, what is happening? Like, is she drunk? Is she so angry that I didn't come up with the recipe that she's calling it a chia latte? Like, it was like, it made me crazy. Or is it a different woman who actually wants a chia latte? I don't know. And I can't.
Yeah.
And I go, why do you care?
Yeah.
I don't even care that much.
Someone tweeted at me and they put a hashtag that was like just letters. You know, it made sense. Like, okay, this is some kind of something.
Like an acronym for something?
Yeah, and it's like shaking my head or whatever it is. You know, like one of those kind of things. And I'm like, well, I don't.
SMH.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. So now I'm like, I'm 7 sites in trying to figure out. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? What am I doing? Even if he's pissed at me and calling me I don't care. Like, why am I? And he wasn't. It was interesting. I had to infer, but I'm like, oh, what am I doing over here? Yeah.
We all have the best of intentions, I think, and then, I mean, those of us putting content out there. I don't think that people commenting and being mean have the best of intentions, but they're going through what they're going through, and whatever it is triggers and yada yada yada. It was why I was hesitant to put video up on YouTube, and now I am finally putting cooking videos up on YouTube. But it's petrifying. My friends who've done like Colbert and done late night and done sets and stuff, and then you see what people write, and I want to go in there and be like, "No, she's brilliant. How dare you!" Like, she's dumb. She's just another dumb girl. And you're like, no! Mm-hmm. I tend to get very protective of the ones I love.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if it's your own work. You know?
Well, I'm saying like of my friends who got the comments on.
They're on
that
Colbert.
I wanted to like...
Yeah.
Do you know how brave that is to be able to go on Colbert and do your stand-up set? And like...
Well, so I was on Chad Prather's a comedian, and he's conservative, but very fair on both sides. Mm-hmm. And so we were going to hook up and have him be on my show, and I was going to be on his maybe at some point. And he's got a pretty. His show is connected to The Blaze, so he's in Gary.
Okay.
Glenn Beck's stable. Yep. They call me in the morning. I'm going to come in, and they're like, "Hey, since you're going to be down here, would you sit in on this show and comment on the news?" And look, I'm not a news person. I pay attention, but I don't like consume it. So I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'm glad to come in and help out, whatever. And so we come down, and it turns out, so Chad was going to be on my show, but it ended up like they flipped it on me, and they're like, "Hey, here's hair and makeup," and I'm like, "Are we taking pictures? What's going on?" And then all of a sudden they're like, "You're going to be on Chad's show."
You're going to be on his show.
Yeah, and it's video. So, and he's got a huge audience and everything else. So I sit down, and on his show, it's very kicked back, and we're drinking whiskey. Because that's the kind of show it is. He's a comedian. It's like I think I have 3 whiskeys during the hour-ish that we were on, right? I'm fine. I can drink 2 and it's no big deal, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, cool. And then as I finish, I know like in a little while I've got to go sit in on this new show. And the producer from that show comes over and says, "Okay, Mr. Beck is almost ready and should be in about 20 minutes. And I'm like, I'm fucking buzzed right now. I just had 3 whiskeys. And I'm going to go sit across from Glenn Beck. I wasn't expecting that because Sarah Gonzalez is the host. It turns out it's like a panel show and Glenn Beck's going to be there. And I'm like,
that's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. But like being on Colbert, like you have to be ready, So I don't
have 3 whiskeys.
Right. And I'm not a Glenn Beck fan, right? I'm not against him. I'm not for him, but I know that he causes a lot of problems just by.
Well, you just want to be on your game, no matter who it is.
Yeah, I don't want to be tipsy, and also I'm in his house, right? And if I'm drunk showing up to the party, like that ain't no good. So it was a.
I blame Chad.
Hey, I'm with Chad. I'm a little bit tipsy. Is that okay?
Everything's fine, Glenn.
But it is big, and then when you go on the show, and then people do say shitty things about you, you're just like. What do you guys have nothing else better to do?
I know, it is interesting.
Yeah.
Well, note to self, I don't know, it just reminds me, don't be a dick. But I will say the amount of positive feedback and the community that Vinnie and I have created is killer. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. I love all of them. I want to squeeze all of them.
Tell me why.
Because, and I know this too, when somebody has helped you shift a paradigm. Like, I love Vinnie. Vinnie helped me shift my paradigm surrounding food.
Right.
It changed everything for me.
Yeah.
It set me on a journey where I could figure out what was going on because I was in my mid-30s just like blogging gluten-free desserts and then wondering why I just kept putting on weight.
Yeah.
Well, I'm eating gluten-free.
Yeah.
I used to be a size 0. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And not realizing that I was literally slowly killing myself.
Yeah, right.
in my pursuit of making the perfect gluten-free whoopie pie or whatever, or red velvet cake, you know?
Yeah.
And not to say that you shouldn't make those things and enjoy them when you want to, but I was doing it like to eat my feelings and, you know what I mean? And well, I'm not working right now, so I'm going to make this thing and blog about it and eat all the key lime pie, and, you know? And so I understand that with our audience, there are people who like, we had a meetup last year in Seattle, organized by wonderful people who are, you know, diehard podcast fans. And I think that we've engendered a certain amount of trust with our audience because we don't just sell them on anything.
Right.
We have turned down so many sponsors over the years, and it's not like I have a course on low carb cooking that I can upsell you to for $300 to $500, and then you could win a thing where you get to come cook with me in my kitchen for $2,000. Like I don't. Yeah. Just the books. That's literally all I sell. I might start selling some marinara at some point. I might sell a spiralizer. Like it's not. I don't have like this huge.
Yeah, I get it.
Thing, and so I think there's trust there. But this Seattle meetup, and we had 2 separate people there with 2 separate families who both have their kids eating this way, who no longer have seizures from their epilepsy. And I'm like, what? Like that stuff makes me like, what? Yeah. And you don't even know how much you're impacting people. And then people say to me, like, oh, I saw you at a thing, but I was afraid to come up and say hello. And I'm like, what?
Hey, this is Peteaturner from Lions Rock Productions. We create podcasts around here. And if you, your brand, or your company want to figure out how to do a podcast, just talk to me. I'll give you the advice on the right gear, the best plan, and show you how to take a podcast that makes sense for you, that's sustainable, that's scalable, and fun. Hit me up at pete@breakitdownshow.com. Let me help. I want to hear about it.
And you don't even know how much you're impacting people. And then people say to me, like, oh, I saw you at a thing, but I was afraid to come up and say hello. And I'm like, what? Of me? Come and talk to me. I want to hear these stories. It fills me with such joy. And that's what I'm saying when I see on the Twitter profiles, between my husband and I, we lost 150 pounds. And then you see like some crazy shit on their Twitter feed. And you're like, this really does unite us. Like, we as a nation need to be healthier and need to... You know, so for everybody who says to me, why did you post a post about dates? Dates have sugar in them. I go, okay, well, there's also like 100 posts of people who are like losing weight, and let the person, if the dates are sugar filled and making them crazy, they can't even see a picture of it. By the way, did we get fat from eating dates? Is that how we all got
so
fat?
Many dates.
I didn't.
Yeah, no. Find me a fatter Rocky who only eats dates. That don't happen either. No.
Well, you were over there.
Yeah. They're skinny folk in general. They don't have enough. So there's fat people, but not because they eat dates. You know. Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
There is the benefit, like the community. You were talking about that. And that's why I wanted to explore it a little more because, you know, we've built this community. And before we go past this, I want to make sure I say what you and Vinnie built. And it often probably won't feel like this to you guys because you're not allowed to feel this, but your show is among the best shows in the world. Like I was thinking think about this. How many podcasts are there? Hundreds of thousands?
Probably. I think it was like 700,000 today on that link that Tim Ferriss sent out, but the advice is there's 700,000 podcasts. Yeah. And I was like, what?
So at some point, your show is well above the first percentile.
That I would hope so.
Yeah. So it is one of the best shows in the world. It's like if you're on Amazon and you have a book and it's number 8,000. Holy shit, you make a lot of money selling books, even though you're number 8,000. When you look at the whole pyramid, you're like, fuck, there's a lot of books. Yeah. So
that's true.
Like I said, you're going to reject it. I reject it. And I'm like, but my show makes money. Mm-hmm. You know, I have an audience, 80 countries. Have active listeners. What the fuck? How'd that happen?
That's incredible.
Yeah. So it is remarkable. As you look at what you and Vinnie have built, obviously you have no idea what you were doing when you're doing it, but you have done it.
Yeah.
A thousandth percentile, whatever it is, wherever your show is way up in that pyramid, what does that make you feel like?
Well, hold on. I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I want to interview you.
Please, hit me away. Go ahead.
How did you build it up? Because everybody goes through this phase of especially with podcasts, which is why the attrition rate is so high. Yeah. Where it's not really growing, and then you hit a thing, and then it plateaus, and you know what I mean? And then you have to get to this thing where it becomes Word of mouth. How did you grow it?
So there's a couple of things that happen. And I didn't come with an audience, I mean, I'm just a dude. I have a lot of friends, but my friends don't listen to the show for the most part, right?
None of our friends listen to our shows. Yeah. My friends have no idea they don't understand.
Right.
They will come to me and they'll be like, well, I got bad blood work and I have type 2 diabetes. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I can help you with that.
I can help you.
And they're like, no.
Wait,
they're not interested.
Wait, I thought that was a hobby. And I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, they don't know. So anyway, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, and there's plenty that do listen, and a lot of my friends from the show listen, of course. But a couple things happened. One is I continue to figure out like what it is that I'm trying to do, because you're just trying to describe it. And I feel like, and as I advise clients, if pinpoint right there where you want to be, you're probably wrong. You probably need to blast it out a little bit and make it a little wider.
I like that advice.
Yeah. Like, you got to have a niche. Says who?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
There's so much pressure for the niche. And I'm like, but I do cookbooks. I do comedy. I do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My niche is like insanity. My niche would be insanity then. Because it's like weird, disparate projects.
Well, and if you think about this, like if you and Vinnie are starting out and you're like, we only talk NSNG. We only do this when we do that.
If we did that, we would...
Right, and then Brad Pitt's like, hey, yeah, I'll come on your show. You're like, fuck all that other shit. This is fucking Brad Pitt,
Yeah,
so,
very much so.
Yeah,
true.
your niche can be defined by a lot of different things. And so I was comfortable with that. I have a lot of background in doing this exact thing by being a spy. So I already had the skills. I understood how to run like a population of people and connect to people and everything. I mean, that's how I met you and Vinnie, is by doing spy shit. And then the other thing was, and this was probably the most recent big thing, is I figured out that there are only going to be more podcasts and more clamor. So I'm going to go to 5 shows a week, so that when everybody else is like, whew, we did a show this week, like bam, 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 bam. And
we were doing 3 shows a week when nobody was doing 3 shows a week.
Right. And I bet it made a difference.
Now Vinnie does 5 shows a week.
Yeah.
And it's like...
And what is that?
Again, also too, how many times can we say... move your body and don't eat sugars and don't eat grains.
Yeah.
Like, we're not like, okay, well, this time if you do 7-minute abs and then you do the thing and then you make the thing with 1,200 calories and then you do this, like, we don't, how many times can we say the same thing after 7 years?
Yeah.
We have to talk about other stuff. Like, yes, we'll always come back to the core message. Yes, it'll be an hour show, but maybe 10 minutes we'll get drilled down on some sort of fitness thing, but we have to talk about other things.
Yep. And also, when you look at your peers that you want to be with, Adam Carolla doesn't do 1 show a week,
Right.
like 30.
Yeah, that's true.
Joe Rogan does 5, but they are marathon, 5 marathon shows. So if you want to play in the big leagues,
do it like they're doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
What does the security system at your house look like? Since you're a spy guy, I bet you have badass security.
No, not at all.
Really?
I got away from all of that. I'm not the, I trust is what I do. That's how I get my information. I build trust and friends, even if I hate the person. And that's not fair. I find a path to trusting and caring about that person, which allows them to care about me. So, we lock our door,
yeah.
And we have dogs. And they're not crazy dogs, but they'll bark.
Well, you saw my guard dog.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if someone wants to come in my house, that's when the problem starts for them. So they might get the better of me, but they're going to have to get the better of me.
Right.
So I will come and I will smash to pieces anything that's in the house that I think is a threat. And so if you choose to come into my house, like there's a line, you've crossed it, you intend to kill me and my family, guess what?
Right.
You're going to have to deal with me.
Yeah, it's going to be not pretty.
And I have been shot at. I have been in gunfights.
Listen.
So not that I'm always ready and sneaking around, like hiding in the thing.
Well, that would be untenable to like.
Right. So, but I have friends that have very like sophisticated things.
Well, that's the thing. Everyone's saying like, well, you don't have the cameras. You got to have the cameras and the thing. I'm like, I don't, my brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah, me neither. I'm worried about people stealing stuff off my porch, but I don't want another thing to keep track of. I got enough shit to keep track of.
It's too much.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, I don't have a crazy security system.
All right.
But
well, good. Then that makes me. You've just enabled my theory of.
I will tell you this though.
Too far with the cameras.
And this is 100% true. I joke about it, but it is 100% true. I know my friends who are preppers, and if shit goes down and it comes to it, I'll go kill them and take their shit. 100%. I'm joking, but I'm not joking because
No,
I
I
don't.
know you're not joking.
Yeah, like it's an earthquake. Like you told me you have a way to make fresh water and electricity. Guess what? I'm going to be there, and you can either let me in and we all be friends.
Really,
Yeah.
really. That's like the actor who tells the other actor about the audition, and then the other actor now takes that information and shows up at the audition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I'm a peace loving guy. Like I would, I'm not worried about.
No,
those
you're
things,
only
but-
going to murder if you have to.
Yeah.
Like I think we've
If it comes-
established that.
it-
If you need to murder, you will murder.
Yeah, and I'll do my best to make it quick for you, but I will absolutely
Yeah,
jam
I
a knife in your neck.
appreciate that.
Yeah. So, no harm to anybody.
I'm just going to say,
nothing.
if you have to murder me,
Yeah,
make it like I'm
not a problem. Yeah, I won't even tell you.
I think
You'll just
I
wake
don't
up
have
dead.
a very high pain threshold. Although I did give birth with no drugs.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was. Well, I never did it again. Like most people are like, all the women in the world say, you'll forget.
Yeah.
You'll forget.
Yeah.
And you'll have another one.
Yeah.
And it'll be. And I was like, no, I will not forget what it was like to do that. But also just to be pregnant with an autoimmune disease. I was sick. I threw up every day till I was 6.5 months pregnant. Who wants to do that? And now because Kate Middleton had it, it's like now it has a word for it. It has like a diagnosis. It didn't have a diagnosis. They're like, well, I don't know. You just throw up a lot.
I am looking at you at your cookbook as you say.
That lady, she threw up every day for 6.5 months.
Yeah.
You think she's going to breed again? No.
She also said, "I'm never writing another cookbook," and
know.
there it is.
Guess what I wrote?
That's your second baby that you forgot about.
You know what I wrote yesterday? More recipes for possible third cookbook.
Yeah. Is the next one going to have like a story with each recipe? Because that's where you're going next, I think.
No.
No, just recipes. Just straight recipes.
Why are you giving me more work to do? But I will do that if the next cookbook can have 65 to 70 recipes.
I think it can. Because everybody wants to know, like, my poor mama's tomato and shoe soup or whatever it is,
That stuff is fun.
Yeah, it is.
I did think one day I'm going to do it because nobody does it. I'm going to do an audiobook of my cookbooks and then I'll tell stories with it.
Yeah.
And you know what inspired it? I was on a podcast for the visually impaired who like to cook. Talk about a niche.
Right.
And they said, when are you going to do an audiobook version of your cookbook? And I was like,
Oh, I didn't thought about
I
that.
hadn't even thought about it.
Yeah.
I
Well,
do
small
audiobooks
world.
for other people, but not mine.
My friend Gabby Jurgens just did a voiceover for a cookbook.
Really?
And you know what she said afterwards?
Yeah.
And this is important because I want you to hear this.
Yes,
as
I
I'm
want to
saying
hear it.
She said, "Never again."
Why? Because it was like a quarter cup of onion diced.
Yeah. And you know how
Cup of
hard it is.
celery.
Like, it's easy, like, in your head, it's like, oh, yeah, it's voiceover work. You just read shit. Like, well, actually, no.
You
It's
got to bring it to life. And I
Yeah.
would imagine it'd be quite dull to read someone else's cookbook.
Right.
I just finished doing an audiobook for somebody, and luckily it was like woo-woo spiritual hypnotherapy, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, which I'm into. So for me, it was but it was exhausting.
Yeah.
I do mostly promos, I do commercials, I do cartoons, like nothing. No session lasts longer than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So doing an audiobook was like, oh my, I have such respect for audiobook actors who bring that stuff to life.
Yeah. And especially something like a cookbook, because it was, and I helped her edit it, and it was a lot of work. Because if it's
A lot of work.
if it's 4 hours to listen to the whole thing, you know how many hours that is to put that together, and then to make it all sound the same. Like I'm wishing and I'm bending and I'm trying to.
to normalize the levels and
Yeah, so
get
it's
all the
not-
mouth noises out and the
Yeah.
breaths and the room tone and the thing.
All of that stuff.
It's
yeah.
a lot.
A third quarter cup of onion. Like, how do I
Yeah.
fix that?
Yeah.
And she's a pro. She did a great job, but any difference, it just stands out so much. It's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah.
So before you do it, just remember that it's going to, I'm
I'm
assuming
not going to
you
edit it.
Oh, okay, good. You're just going to read it?
Yeah. I'm gonna
1
hire
quarter
someone to
cup
edit
of
it.
raisins. 1/2 cup. Oh, wait, maybe you could do some impressions.
Quarter cup of raisins. See?
Okay.
I will say that's the only recipe I've ever used raisins in. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason for it. You'll see it when you buy the book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble.
Eat Happy Too by Anna Vocino.
But I will say no shade on raisins, but fuck raisins
Okay.
for the most part, unless you're blending them into some meat, which is what I have for the meatballs.
Okay.
Because it's one of those things that my grandmother would be like, do you want a snack? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, here's a pack of raisins.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh no,
That's not
Grandma,
what I
we're
want.
not doing that.
Yeah. There's
We don't
certain
do that. We eat junk food.
There's
so that
certain
we can later
things.
have to recover from it.
Yes.
Don't give me no raisins.
Raisins are one of those shitty snacks where you're like,
So
fuck you
shitty.
and your fucking shitty snack. Also, if you're going to put out free jelly and jam for your customers, can we get something other than fucking bullshit grape jelly?
Grape jelly is just sugar with coloring.
Yeah.
And pectin.
Yeah, like
It's not even a thing.
Smuckers, I'm talking to you. Eliminate the grape jelly. No one wants that shit. That's why it's always the only one left on the table. And put in another flavor. Strawberry, fine. That's okay. But, blackberry always disappears. And by the way, who the fuck ever orders marmalade? Why would that be like a main option?
We're Americans. We don't do marmalade. We'll do some apricot
Sure.
jam.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that Bon Maman brand that has like the plaid
Yes.
lid.
Those are good.
I
yeah.
don't have a lot of jellies and jams because of mostly trying to avoid carbs.
Right.
But I will steal the Bon Maman from the table because it's a cute little jar,
Yes.
or from the hotel.
Right.
I've been known to steal.
And if you're a restaurant and you put out apple jelly, fuck you. Because that's just nothing.
Apple jelly is only good if you put it like with something spicy. You
Or-
need like
yeah.
jalapeno and like cream cheese and turn it into a dip.
Right. It's just not trying. In this day and age, you can really have any kind of packaged jelly you want. We got to do better than that.
This is America.
Yeah.
You can have any kind of jelly you want.
If you are claiming to be above a 3-star restaurant and you serve me cold butter when you serve me bread, come on.
Rage.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Rage.
Yeah. Warm that shit up. Leave it out for a while. What are you bringing me cold butter? What am I going to do?
But I don't think people think about it.
Yeah, I do.
Well, but I'm saying like the restaurant people,
Yeah,
they don't
yeah,
think
yeah.
about it when it's almost exclusively their job to think about that.
Yeah, the whole dining experience. Like you've baked this bread that's fresh out of the oven
Yeah.
and it's so tender. Why on earth did you give me this?
At least let it be room temperature softened.
Yeah, something.
do that.
No.
How were your cookies?
They were
Mrs.
wonderful.
You want
I
some
ate
more?
all of them. No, I don't want any more. That was a treat.
Too much sugar for you?
Yeah, I try to say yes to that, but let's be honest. No. I just don't need any more cookies.
You're going to have to get a new belt.
Yeah, well, that's true no matter what. To be fair, too, to my fat self, that belt was about to get pushed back into that's the fat belt, and then we'll bring out the skinnier belt, which I am
Great.
wearing today. So, yeah,
How many people can say before the holidays,
Yeah.
I get to take the skinny belt out?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, it is the holidays. I don't know when this episode's coming out, but
January.
okay. So in January, when in January? I'm going to tell you exactly. You tell me the day in mid-January.
Mid-January.
People have already quit.
Yeah.
They've already quit.
All right, I love
So
it.
I'm here to tell you, stop, just go back to it. Whatever it is that you said you were going to do, go back to it right now. Because mid-January is where it all wears off.
Yeah. And just get back at it. The thing about eating well or not drinking, all these kinds of things, when you get off the wagon, that wagon stops. And it waits for you to get back on. So just get right back on and then get back after it. I totally agree. And Pete Koch says, like, you don't set a date when you're going to start. You start right now.
You start.
Yeah, you
the
get
next
back
meal,
after it.
just start.
The next meal, the next workout, whatever it's going to be. Like the best day to start it was 20 years ago. So he says that too. He's like 20 years ago is the best way to start. But, the next best day is right now. Yeah. So that's awesome. But yeah, and I love what you and Vinnie do. Everybody should go to Amazon. Is that where you want people
Amazon
to go?
or Barnes & Noble. Yep.
Eat Happy to Anna Vocino, and you'll see her lovely face in her bathrobe.
Look, you're standing right here in the kitchen where it all...
Actually here, right here in the kitchen. I love it. And I love that you're doing it, and I love that you're goofy enough to make a second cookbook, and you do a lot of voice acting. One of the things that bugs me a little bit, and it's all ego-driven, is like I'll put together a really great show with a really great guest, and I use my background to really bring out a lot of them. And they're like, Anna was so great on the show. And they're like,
Right.
I'm like, there's two people in this conversation.
Right.
I'm like,
it's a conversation.
it drives me a little
There's an
batty.
art to conversation,
Yeah.
and people don't know it. I have done so many podcasts as a guest where the person's not a good interviewer or conversationalist, and it's very tricky.
Yeah.
You can see them spacing out, thinking of what the next thing is. What is it that...
Yeah.
Or maybe looking at their notes, or they just have no idea, or they're reading the questions.
Yeah.
Which is my pet peeve.
Yeah.
So, it says here, and I'm like, well, I figured out who you were before we did
Yeah.
this. You can't...
Yeah.
It's very interesting. But,
It is interesting.
yes, you and I always have good conversations.
Yeah, for sure. And the ability to do these things and like prepping for you is easy. You just got to show up because you're going to do your job, and you did. And it was wonderful today. And
Oh my God, thank you. I
Yes.
paid him to say that.
But no, really, it is easy. You're a good conversationalist. Obviously, you're a good cook, and the recipes are great. Jerry and I will go through this book together, and we'll make some of these recipes.
Great.
And, because we're always wondering what we're going to have for dinner,
All marriages
Yep.
is wondering what you're going to have for dinner,
Yeah.
and then you die.
How many,
So
what are
that's
your
it.
guys' 10 go-to recipes? What are your things?
I make my lemony chicken thighs
Mm-hmm.
all the time because that's easier, just soaking chicken thighs in lemon. We grill steaks all the time.
Mm-hmm.
For veggie sides, I always do broccoli or zucchini or sauteed onions and pepper or sauteed spinach. And it usually is just those, maybe
Mm-hmm.
some asparagus if it's seasonal. And then I'll either, I'll always have onion or leek or garlic on hand for flavor depth. I always keep a certain amount of pork products on hand,
Mm-hmm.
like bacon or salami, because you can always cook your vegetables in that and give it some real good flavor.
Yeah.
Oh, burgers, anything ground beef. If I have ground beef, I can make burgers, chili, meatballs, zucchini noodles with meatballs or bolognese. That's a big
Yeah.
thing I'll make. It's
Yeah.
easy. I don't do a lot of fish anymore
Okay.
unless I'm writing recipes, mostly because it stinks. And I just have this super duper sense of smell.
Yeah.
Which is why I threw up every day for 6.5 months when I was pregnant.
Yeah.
Everything smelled.
You already have a
to
good
me.
sense of smell, and then now you have your super pregnant lady's sense of smell.
Yeah, it didn't really leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, those are the grilling stuff. Pork chops. I love pork chops.
Pork chops are good.
I mean, we make simple American, able to find in grocery stores cuts of meat. I'll make a lot of short ribs and chili and soups. I make soup broth at least once a week in the wintertime.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because I'll get a rotisserie chicken. I'll make chicken salad to be for the daytime.
Yeah.
And then I'll always throw the bones and make a couple rounds of soup.
I love that. So when you and your husband are doing things, you cook together?
We do. We
Okay.
cook together a lot.
I mean, it's such a great relationship thing. You guys have been married forever, so
Yeah.
But it's good that you do that. One of the things that we do is my girlfriend loves to bake, and so we'll watch the British baking show, and we'll have a British baking show in bed.
You should interview my friend Trisha, who's one of the producers of that show.
I want to. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. I love that show because they literally had on the guy. He's like, I always come in third in my church's cookie contest, but I'm here and I'm going to give it my best.
Yeah.
And you're like, I just want to hang out with you. You're like the cutest little old man
He's so
ever.
charming.
And then he's
Yeah.
gone, and you're like, that guy was so great.
Yeah.
But it's such and no one's catty.
No,
they help
they're
each other.
delightful.
Yeah. So we do breakfast.
There's maybe low-key shade from the judges once in a while.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
But the contestants are always just delightful,
Yeah.
eager humans.
And then-
we don't have that in this country.
No.
Delightful, eager
Well, they're
humans. They're young ones there.
You
but,
won. Here's a plate. And you're like, I got a plate.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no contract. Or you're not. Maybe you come back in a special series or whatever. But for the most part, you go back to your life and you just go back to doing
Well, you
your
know
thing.
what's interesting? A friend of mine just gave my number to somebody who recently won MasterChef.
Yeah.
And I used to watch that show, but I haven't watched the past couple seasons, so I'm not sure which one. And they haven't gotten in touch with me yet because it is a thing. When you win one of these things, you have to
Yeah.
And generally people don't know how to keep the machine going.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to squander this opportunity.
Right.
And so she's trying to figure out she should do a cookbook and this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, call me because I've kept
Yeah.
an audience going and a cookbooks going, and I have not had the opportunity of something like MasterChef.
Right.
But Trisha also was a producer of MasterChef. I'm going to put you guys in touch.
Great. Love it. Love it.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a great thing. Yeah. So she'll bake on theme.
Yep.
And then we
Love
don't
it.
look at the results. Yeah. And
That's
it's just
fun.
the most adorable thing. And
See, now with baked goods, though, because I used to be a baker, here's the thing. Here's my level of psychosis with baked goods.
I love it.
If I make something and I'm like, oh, that turned out great, I write down the recipe, I will not eat any other kind of food until that's all. I'll think about it.
Yeah.
I'll be like, eat it. No, it's not time yet. It's only been 2 hours since the last baked good that you...
Yeah.
I will consume it and only that until it's gone.
Yeah.
Are you able to just have one and then be done?
That is my goal, and on occasion, I am lucky enough to do that. Also, we have 2 young men in the house. That helps tremendously.
That does help. They'll eat everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we have a persimmon tree in the backyard. That does not bode well to, and a fig tree.
Yeah.
And so these things
I
have
know.
to be harvested, and
We have the same. We have fig,
Yeah.
lemon, lime,
Yeah.
orange, and I'm constantly making delicious
and pomegranates.
things.
And if there's a big bucket of pomegranate, arrows,
Yeah.
I'm going to take a spoon. And I'm like, yeah, I just chow down on because it's wonderful.
It
so,
is.
yes, I try to limit, but what I cannot stop, if you had turtles, like chocolate, and if those are in the
So
house, they're gone.
Yeah.
Like they will all hop into my mouth or my girlfriend's. We just
Yeah.
can't help it. We can't have them in the house.
I can't
No way.
have stuff in the house. And now this time of year is tricky because people send a lot of
Right.
things. And again, they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
know that. I'm like, I just spent 75 days not eating anything. By the way, to break my 75-day thing, it was like actually end of September. I had sweet potato fries and some wine. I got hammered off of like a glass and a half of wine. I don't think my tolerance is there anymore.
Yeah,
but
that's hilarious. I think the last time you were on the show, you had just talked about how you had finished one of those.
100 days.
Yeah,
I like doing the challenges.
Yeah. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on. Awesome as
I
always.
appreciate you having me. It's so nice to see you in person.
Yeah, all right. Look, here I am.
Yeah,
I'm a
it's
real
great.
person.
I
Yeah.
know.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.